GKFX Prime presents the Market Analysis Webinar.
Hi guys, hello traders, welcome to another weekly analysis video. My name is Dima. We have NFP behind us, we have summer holidays behind us, we are well into September now, the month that is typically a month of more action, more interest in the markets. People are back, many traders are back live in action. So let's see what this month holds. This week will be interesting because we have a few interesting scenarios here. As usual, I'll take you through a few higher probability potential setups with me and see which one captures your attention. So I'm going to go through a few ideas as usual and start with the economic calendar. So let's see where we go from here. So remembering, as usual, the NFP week is the week to be careful of. We have that in last week, and then the market took its set. We had that volatility, and now we have a bit more clarity as to what's happening. So we do have bullishness in the dollar, and we're going to bear that in mind as we go into this week. So a quick look at the calendar. Monday, we've got some bank holidays. It could be a slow day. Tuesday, we have a big news on from Australia, the rate statement. And Wednesday, we have again news from Australia and big news on the pound monetary policy from the UK. And we've got a rate statement from Canada, so that could affect the pound most likely. Thursday, another big news on the euro, the finance rate, and also a secondary bit of big news monetary statement. We've also got a speech from the Fed on the dollar from the US. So and Friday, perhaps also big news for CAD, but less important in the context of the rate statement, and this whole week is employment rate. So keep those in mind for each day of the week if you are trading, whichever day you're trading on. And let's have a look. Let's start to look through what we've got in the markets this week. Okay. So as I just mentioned, the dollar, we've got a lot of bullishness, and this week I have, for that reason, picked out a lot of dollar pairs. And what that means is that you will need to manage your risk and not necessarily trade all of these pairs in one go, because if you're heavily bullish on the dollar, if the market goes in the opposite direction and the dollar weakens, then if you're too heavily leveraged and you've got too much risk on, then you will maybe lose all those trades simultaneously if you're trading the dollar in one direction and one bias. So keep that in mind. I'm still going to give you these options, and it'll be up to you to choose which one is a higher probability for you, and I will just give you some options here. So I'll give you the analysis, and let's go through the charts and see what's what. Okay, I'll start with the euro as usual. Last week did have a look at this area for reversal, and we went much higher, and then before the market continued on tanking here. So I'm going to look for continued weakness with the bullishness of the dollar. We didn't break this previous high here, so I would expect further downside as I drew out last week. I'm going to do the same this week, and with a nice pullback to a higher price would be very favorable, and a continuation to the downside. And if I zoom out on the weekly, let's go maybe even to the monthly, we have this zone right here looking left. So I'll be looking for the market to go well down into that zone, and we may go down into 0.99 we've already hit, so the next down would be 0.98 whole number. That will be a significant level to watch out for, and we may head even lower, who knows. with the bullishness on the dollar. Let's see how long that continues for. So that is the outlook for euro dollar here. If we don't get a pullback, we may get a pullback a little bit later on if the market does this. It may happen a bit lower down. So if we get a further move downwards, then still looking for that pullback to get a better price, more expensive price to then come down. So that's the euro dollar. Let's look at the euro dollar's opposite sister, which is the dollar Swiss, which works in the opposite correlation. We've got that strength on the dollar last week. You can see here. Let's go down to the 4 hour. I was looking at this potential area last week at the beginning, but we'd never hit that. We just missed that region, and then we flew up as expected. So next, what's next? Well, we're going to look for a similar type of idea. I do like the fact that we've got lots of these rejection wicks to the downside, so I am looking at a higher probability scenario to come up even further. Let's look on the weekly. Look to the left. I've got here, got this level. Let's go to the daily. Yeah, we've got this whole region here really to pay attention to. So if I just zoom in, and yeah, we've got this area that I'm looking for the market to draw into. That could happen early in the week, and of course we could also have the market move higher still and then look for a pullback to get a better price. That's my favorite scenario at the moment on the dollar Swiss here. So I don't expect the market to breach this level right here, which is the 0.9740. If it does, this whole idea would then collapse and be invalidated. So that's the idea on the dollar Swiss in terms of higher probability. Let's go to another major pair. Let's move on to dollar CAD. So again, here we are, weekly. Let's look at the weekly again. We've got this next level up to pay attention to with the bullishness on the dollar. Had that bullish close last week on the dollar CAD. Let's look on the daily. We have that wick that came to the downside. That was the NFP price action, NFP volatility on Friday. If I go down to the 4 hour, was looking at this trade, which we marked out last week, and that happened exactly as planned. So let's just move that now. And let's look forward to the next opportunity. So the next opportunity would be, would be looking at this whole downward momentum to be broken, to create new structures and move higher and higher into the next level. So let's just mark that out. So I'll be looking for possibly something like this, a move higher, then a retracement, getting a better price, and then continuing to the upside. So similar to the dollar Swiss and the opposite of the euro dollar, just moving in the other direction. And this could be a zone here to pay attention to. So that's the high probability scenario that I see here. Who knows what's going to happen? We may shoot straight up, or we may shoot downwards from here. So we don't know. We just have to see what the market tells us. But either way, going to respond accordingly. And that's the high probability scenario on the dollar CAD. Okay, I'll move on to the next one, which let's do gold here. All right, to zoom out on the weekly. So gold, I think we looked at previously as well. I was looking at this level here. This level here, I think it was. On the monthly, you can see we're still very much bearish, continuing bearishness. weekly bearish again, so see a continuation of that bearishness at least to the first level down here, which I marked out as 1660. Let's call it 1660. Yep. And look for the market to continue that as we've got bullishness on the dollar. So bullishness on the dollar generally means bearishness on gold. Let's look at the 4-hour chart, see what it tells us. Can see a trend happening here, and I can also see a little zone here. So if we do get a nice pull up higher, any higher price would be a nice opportunity to short, and that'll be a nice risk to reward idea coming down to here. Now obviously I don't know what's going to happen, how far the market will come back down, how far it's going to pull up, but it's just a high probability scenario as a general outlook of what's happening here. We could also have the market come down, break this low right here, and then after that any break, pull back, and then a continuation could also be an idea. So that's the high probability scenario that I'm seeing at the moment on on gold. So that's gold here for you. Again, bearish, but gonna have to choose carefully because we've got bearish euro, bearish gold. We've got the buy idea on the dollar pairs. So you don't want to be taking them all at the same time and really taking all those trades across all the pairs just because they're available. Best to choose carefully. Okay, what's next? Well, let's go to S&P. Let's go to the stock market. So gonna really looked at this for quite some time now. This was the previous week that we looked at. The market just collapsed from there. I was looking for it to reach higher to get a better price. That did not happen. And as always, this is a good lesson, a good bit of experience for you, that the market does not always fulfill, you know, your wishes, and it's not nothing to do with our setup or what we want it to happen. It just does whatever the market wants to do. So it's really worth bearing in mind and really worth remembering, because no matter how much we plan, no matter how much we look at the probabilities, however high probability seems to be, something else can always happen. There's always that chance, always that possibility. So how do we respond now that we've got this scenario? The market pulled lower. What are we going to look for next after that? Well, I'm still looking for the market to breach this level and perhaps head down lower into this level. Still bearish. As we can see, we've broken many lows as we mentioned last week, and then we've also now this week right here, you can see this low just about broke this one, which hints at even more bearishness, even more weakness in the market. So I'm going to delete this, I'm going to delete this and this, because I don't see the market reaching that high anymore. But I would still like a nice pullback and a nice better price for the market to reach to would be really great. And it would be fantastic to have it pull back much higher into this zone, because that would be a nice expensive price, and we like an expensive price when we sell the market. So then this could be ambitious, I have to admit, because this is quite a distance to travel. Quite a distance to travel for the market to short from, for the market to move, because this is the high of the week. So we are expecting, or I should say we would prefer for the market to hit that level. And it's it could be a bit ambitious, like I said, because it's such a distance away. But in terms of probabilities, in terms of really selecting a high quality trade, that would be the preferred scenario. I'm not saying it's going to happen. We could have a collapse as we did here straight away, and it's not going to pay any attention to what we're saying here. Obviously, it has nothing to do with what we are asking at the moment. So this would have to you just have to let this play out. It's a bit of a tricky one to look at, tricky one to predict, but we don't want to predict anything. We just see what happens and let it unfold as it wants to unfold, and then go from there. So I'd like to see a nice reaction from here, nice bearish candles, just like you see right here. Let me point this out. These big bearish candles, any nice reaction of this zone, of this level here, would be a nice confirmation to the downside. So that's what I'm looking at the moment on the S&P. So if you go on the weekly, if you go on the monthly, in fact, you can see last month closed very bearish. So that is indeed confirmation that we may have more selling yet to come in the S&P. Weekly, you can see bearish candles reacting off the level that we marked a few weeks ago, just as planned. And now that big sell-off. So should be an interesting one, because if that happens, we are going to have a massive sell-off, massive crash in the markets. But we'll see. Always leave the possibility that it is not what's actually going to happen. It is just a probability, not a certainty. Just reminding you of that in case you forgot. Do not take anything too hard. Do not marry your trades or think that they are the be all and end all. So every trade is just a trade, just another one in a sequence. So in case you forgot that, I'm just reminding you. Okay, I'll move on to oil now. An old favorite, this one, oil. So I'm gonna start with the monthly because it provides a clearer picture. I've got a level I can see here, and we can see this continued bearishness over the last few months, and we're now in the retracement phase of the market. Let's look at the weekly. We've had this very ranging market, and I'm still favoring the downside. And last week got that confirmation that we may yet see some more downside in oil. So got that big bearish candle, and that confirms continued weakness for me. So previous weeks there was some very indecisive, and now we've got that picture. We've got that bit more clarity here. It's kind of like a poker game, and the market here, crude oil, has kind of given up its hand, so to speak. So let's go down to the daily. I can see with this bearishness we had this reaction, and then we're now bearish, and then we had closed bearish on Friday, got this big wick to the upside, and I will be looking for continuing that selling idea. So the question is now, where would a possible entry be? Well, it's tricky to say here. We have this area right here. We also have a more ambitious one up here, a bit higher up. And if we get a break of this previous low, then it'll be interesting to sell on a pullback. And a pullback, a nice, more expensive price. This would be the latest swing high in that case, if we break this swing low right here. And then I wouldn't expect the market to breach this level unless we get a complete reversal of the whole selling idea. So expecting a bit more downside before anything else happens. So once we get here, then we'll see where the market wants to go next, and we'll see what happens. At the moment, unclear as it is. So I do not know yet if this is an actual swing high, not confirmed yet because we've not broken this low, and we may go higher. Definitely if we go higher here, it would be very interesting, because then if you take the fib from the low to the high, we'll be well into the retracement, well into a nice expensive price, 61.8 here and then 78 above. So it will be interesting to see how that goes, and yeah, keep an eye out for that one on oil. Okay, and finally Bitcoin, as we have looked at Bitcoin previously a few times, haven't we? Be interesting. So again, Bitcoin a little bit like the S&P here, isn't it? It's a similar kind of scenario. Looked for that nice retracement, didn't happen, it just went bang lower and just really heavily collapsed, breaking lows, new lows here, and this low as well, if you look left. And now definitely the bias is to the downside. So let me just delete this and clear it up for a moment. Continuing with the downside and continuing to this level right here that I was looking at previously, much lower, with this being the latest swing on the weekly time frame. Wasn't expecting to breach that. We continued lower, exactly what we expect in terms of momentum and direction, but not in terms of entry. So be it. Well, it is what it is. There you go. All right, so what am I going to look for next? Well, if I draw a fib from that high to the current low, then I can see that we've got this nice clear retracement area to look to. If the market reaches that, then we'll look for a high probability scenario that could happen to the downside. And again, if that's not the case, if we have continued weakness and then we break this low here, then the next thing to bear in mind would be, again, push lower, pull back to get a nice, more expensive price, better price, and then continuation to the downside, but of course favoring a higher place, because that's a much nicer place to short for a much higher probability and better risk to reward as well. So looking nice up here. Yeah, very clear to see. I mean, the bearishness, the weakness was obvious to see all along. Really, it was just a case of where would be a nice idea to enter at. So there you go. That's a Bitcoin for you on the weekly. See, it's very clear. This downward momentum is very, very obvious. Okay, so that's that. Those are the markets for this week. Thank you very much for being here and joining me once again this week. September should be an interesting one. You're probably back, and maybe you've missed the previous few videos because you were on holiday or whatever other reason, you were just taking a break. Totally understand. So yeah, keep in mind once again, the choice, the selection, the bearishness, bullishness on the dollar and the corresponding news that could affect the markets this week, and managing your risk and being selective and following your process, everything that makes a great trader. So hope you have a good week, good trading week, and I'll no doubt see you again next week. Hope you can join me then. Comment down below if you have any questions or comments on this week's analysis and video, and I will see you again next week. Ciao for now. My name's Dima. Thank you, and see you soon.